Welcome to FacingMelsMusic.com podcast, featuring some of the most heartwarming stories from musicians all around the world on FacingMelsMusic.com.
And welcome to Facing Mel's Music. This is Mel Golding, and I have a very special guest star for today, Alaura Lovelight. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So you're an R&B artist based in the States.
Yes.
Whereabouts in the States are you?
I'm right outside New York City.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
the best.
fantastic.
The best place.
Wonderful. And I see you've got your latest single out.
Yes.
Eroticy, and I heard that, and it's wonderful. It was released last September,
Yes.
and it's been played on 20 plus radio stations nationwide.
That's right.
And you're getting a lot of attention in the UK, internationally, and in Canada. This is a very exciting time for you.
It's so exciting. It's so exciting. It's been a wonderful journey up to Eroticy, and now that it's out, it's been really fun to connect with people like yourself and
Fantastic.
really get to chat with people.
Amazing. And I saw the video as well, which of course reflects eroticism.
Yes, right. In a classy way.
In a very classy way. What can I say?
Yeah.
You've got the glitter, you've got glittery shoes on that are actually, you're playing the piano with your glittery shoes. I noticed at one time. That was fantastic, I have to say. That's gonna get attention there. So I take it you wrote the song as well. You're a writer?
I did, yes. I wrote it with a co-writer of mine. And
Okay.
we wrote it together, and then we did the video. So
Wonderful.
definitely a lot of I like to be part of the creative process on all levels. So yeah.
Wonderful. And I mean, have you been writing for a long time?
I have. I have been playing the piano since I was about 4.
Wow.
And I've been writing songs since I had my little cassette tape, and I would put my cassette tape in my alarm clock, and then I would record it on another cassette tape, and then record another part. And definitely since then have been making music. And I always loved the process of everything from like playing the piano to writing the song to recording the song to the creative visuals that go along with it. All the pieces I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So you're really in there, aren't you? And you're cutting. So let's look at that creative part and the writing. I take it, where do you pull your material from? Where do you get that?
Oh yeah. It totally depends on what's going on in my life, what kind of mood that I'm in, what kind of things people around me are going through. A lot of times inspiration will come from like not a personal experience that I'm having, but maybe something I'm seeing somebody else go through or feel, and inspiration comes from there too. So this song came from a space of like, we were in a writing session and talking about my next single and just saying, what's it going to be? And this song is a lot more up tempo. It's a little bit edgier, sexier than I would normally do. But it was really fun to kind of go beyond my limits and say, let me, reach out into this part of my artistry. Yeah.
Which is wonderful. And I noticed that because I looked at there was another video. It's called, I'm just looking at my notes here. We all have things, and we all have things and all have stuff. And I guess what you mean by that is past experiences. It could be issues or baggage, as we say here. I don't know if you use that terminology. We have baggage, So, and what I noticed is when I made a comparison, looking at that older video to Eroticy now, there was this huge transformation in even the way you looked.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
So can you tell me about that process? Because I suddenly saw you leap into this world of confidence, and I found that amazing. So please do tell me that. Walk me through that one.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been so fun. It's been fun for like people to kind of go the journey with me. And I would say my whole adult life has been a transformation. Just kind of growing into my womanhood and feeling confident and feeling sexy and feeling good enough and things like that. So yeah, this last record was, like I said, it started kind of with the record, and
Yeah.
I had played, my co-writer is Ray Rothschild. He's formerly Sugar Ray of the Double X Posse, which is a hip hop group. They had a few #1 hits. So he's a brilliant writer, and he was asking me, hey, what do you think you want to do next? So I kind of played a song that I wrote a long time ago that I really kind of wrote as a practice for myself to say, can I make music like this? And I was like, oh, we could play this one, really not having any attachment to it. And he was like, yeah, that's the record. And I was like, really?
Wow.
Yeah. And then we ended up writing it, and he definitely like made me way more like say that a little bit more creative, do that a little bit more creatively. It was great. It was such a challenge for me to like level up my writing and my instrumentation and things like that. So and then of course the song was titled Eroticy, so it turned into like, how do we make a video that's sexy but classy and still represents me as an artist, but is confident and edgy, and I think we really captured that. So I'm very happy with that.
100% you did. It's
Thank
great.
you.
It's really great. And what I love about it is you said it is class. It's great. And I think it really depicts you as a very confident artist, and that really came across for me when I was listening to it. So it's wonderful. So I'm really intrigued because you're a lady of wearing a few hats, actually.
Yes, it's
You
true.
are wearing several hats, and what I want to ask you is, how did you got into music? You were 4 years old. I mean, do you have a musical family? Tell me a little bit more. You do? Okay. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I kind of always tell people that I feel like my path was paved for me before I got here. I think most of us, actually, that's true, but we have to figure that out. And I figured mine out very early on.
Yes, cool.
My mother is a brilliant and fantastic piano player. And when I was little, I was like, please teach me, please teach me. I mean, like as a 3-year-old. And she always said, I never like banged on the piano. I always kind of was very interested and intrigued by like the notes that went together. And we would play a little game where she would like play a note on the piano, and I would like run into another room and then come back and try to find what note that was. I mean, as like a very little kid. And so I started playing around 4, and I really studied piano all the way through up till high school. And then my mom said, what do you want to do, after high school? And I was like, I don't want to go to school for music. I don't want to ruin it, and blah, blah, blah. And needless to say, I ended up going to school for music. And I loved it. And that's always kind of been what's natural for me. I love being on stage. I've always loved writing and playing music. And then my dad he was a business professor for about 20 years. So I always say like music business, for both my parents, it just kind of was destined to be.
Amazing. It gelled together. So when did you actually take the professional step? Was that something that happened in your teens, in adolescence? Was it on in life when you did it professionally?
Yeah, I always was pursuing, like, as a kid, I think like when I was 12 was the first time I was like on the local radio station, and they let me come play my guitar, and it was like the best thing ever. And my aunts and uncles called in the radio station. And that's kind of the first time I was like, wow, this is really fun. Like, and I'm good at music. So this might be a path for me. And then I would write songs. I was like head of the worship band at church, and things like that. And then I went to school. I actually ended up pursuing writing film music for a few years after college. And then I was working with a team of people I was 21 at the time, and they were like in their 30s. And I thought, oh, well, if I'm going to be somebody's assistant, I might as well go do my own music. So, yeah, right.
Amazing. Great.
Yeah.
Great. So it's been with you, obviously, all of your life, and
So
I
much, yeah.
imagine, because I read, so you're a writer, which is another one of your heads, and you're a published writer, and I've got something up here from Thrive Global,
Yeah.
and great stuff, very interesting. I'm looking at, I stopped compromising, I stopped making assumptions, all of these sub headlines that you've got here.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, and I don't want to assume too much, but it feels like it's very much driven from the heart. Are you speaking from a place of experience, Alaura?
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
100%. I think I always
Yeah.
kind of feel like God has put me on a path to go through certain things because I need to share my story. And I think it's important that everybody shares their story. I haven't been through what everybody has been through, but somebody has been through, what somebody else has. And it's been a long, hard journey, but I feel thankful for all of it. And it always contributes to new music. So
Wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful. You are a coach for young artists, aren't you? A coach.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You're the creator of Unseen to Young Queen.
Yes, that's right.
Can you tell me a little bit about that,
Of course.
where that comes from and what that entails?
Yeah. So I started working with some teen girls, started in working with after school kids. And then I was kind of helping with all sorts of aspects of music. And I noticed I was getting these girls who would come to me and they reminded me so much of myself. They were 14, 15, very shy, very uncomfortable. And people are like, no way, that's not you. But as a teen, I was very uncomfortable in my skin. I was shy. I didn't want boys to talk to, like, I was embarrassed. And I loved music. And I felt like music was where I belonged. It made me feel like, yeah, I'm good at something. I'm good at this. And I see that with them every single time I work with them. Oh, it gives me goosebumps. It's such a beautiful thing to see, perfect example. One of my girls that I coach, her name is Olivia. And she, for her first few times that we met, she was like, I don't want to face you when I sing. I'm really shy. I'm really embarrassed. And I was like, that's okay. And I loved working with her. Brilliant, beautiful voice, beautiful girl. And just this week, she was the star of her school play.
Wow.
So she just, like, it's so fun to watch these girls, like, find their confidence and, yeah, I'm good at something, and, yeah, I'm pretty, and, yeah, I'm me, and that's such a blessing. I love doing it.
What do you think? I mean, just looking at that's really interesting. What is the pivotal point for that turning point? What actually do you see transforms them from this shy kid, let's say, to someone who can actually end up going on stage? What is that? How do you get there? How do you help them get there?
Yeah, what a great question. No one has asked me that before. Yeah, I would say that it's a recognizing of your own self-worth. I always tell parents and other, teachers or whoever on social media and things like that, that you can't tell them how to feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
And I know that because nobody could tell me that. I was at a place where I was very shy and I was very uncomfortable, and nobody could tell me I was pretty enough. Nobody could like, I had to figure it out for myself. So I try to create a space for these girls to find it on their own and say, they'll accomplish something in their singing, and I'll say, did you notice that? And say, yeah, yeah. And they find it themselves. I just kind of coax them along.
You coach them, you facilitate, and you're there to point out. And it's these real, I call them pivotal points. They're real, very delicate, but it is the difference of change. That is what makes the difference. And what you're talking about really sounds like you're letting them find their internalized self-worth, which is rather than relying on an extoernal validation.
Right. Yes.
Because
I wish I had found that, at that age. It took me much later in life,
Yes,
So.
absolutely. Because we can't get stuck on that. And as artists, I think, you've got something on approval here, which is something I've looked at too. And it's this approval that you need to say that you were actually really, oh, you were really good, or you look great. But if you can actually have an inner knowing,
Yes.
it sounds like you help them find that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it. That's
Yeah.
that's the goal, right? That's what
Yes.
I aim to do, is
Yes.
not be in the way and not,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that they see
Yeah.
how, oh, Alaura, you're so confident, and and when I share my
Yeah.
story with them, they're like,
Yeah.
no way. And
Yeah.
I see them go through that transformation of auditioning for their play, or
Yeah.
things like that. And I love it. It's so beautiful. It's
It
really cool.
really is. And what's even more beautiful is that you're there helping them. You're a successful artist. You've been through this experience yourself. You've through that part of your life. You know what it's like. And you're now helping young people do exactly that, to try and
Yes.
find themselves and that inner confidence, because it is so important as an artist,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
You
As
know,
a person, yeah, totally.
and as a person,
Right.
completely,
Right.
100%. So you teach them how to sing, songwrite as well.
Yeah.
You do that, yeah.
Yep, I do. Yep.
What do you do with the songwriting? Because I love the idea. I'm interested in the songwriting, because for me it's delving deeply within your soul to find
Yes.
lyrical content which is
Yeah.
personal. Is that what you do when you help these young people to
I
songwrite?
do. There's a whole bunch of different kind of strategies to songwriting, and everybody has their own kind of color and own flavor that I'm a piano player, so like almost all of my music comes from sitting at the piano and certain chords that make me feel a certain way, and then words will follow that.
Yes.
That's how I write. But I
Mm.
really try to make a conscious effort to, like, music is self-expression. So teaching somebody how to be a songwriter is a really delicate subject, because you have your own way of doing it, but that doesn't mean it's the right way. It's just the way that you do it. So I try to work with whoever I work with on songwriting. I'll kind of figure out, what's your process? And they'll be like, I don't have a process. I don't know. And I'm like, you do, but you don't know that you do. Do you play an instrument? Do you sit down and kind of bang out chords? Do you write poetry? That's a beautiful start. Do you journal? That's another start that a lot of people discredit. They're like, what's that? And we could take a journal entry and make a song, a beautiful song from it all the time. So that's the process to start with. And then I'll take it, kind of like the clay of what they have, and then we mold it together in terms of, all right, let's just write it out, really scratch whatever. And then, okay, let's decide, are we going to rhyme every other line? Are we going to rhyme 2 lines and then 2 more lines? Are we going to rhyme the last one? We'll pick like a form, so to speak. And then from there, I have them build, it's a process, but then we will write a poem sometimes, then build chords around it. Sometimes we'll build a chord structure, and then we'll put the words into the chord structure. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And it sounds like I believe that there's not one size fits all, like you say, everybody has their own ways of expressing. And it sounds like what you do is you're tailoring to you're catering to their needs individually. So you're really listening to that, and you're going alongside that. And I'm very curious, I'm very interested. Have you noticed any emotional responses to when you songwrite? Can you tell me
You
that
got
a little?
good questions, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of my favorite parts of teaching other people songwriting, is to say, like, I feel like songwriting is a superpower, and I tell my girls that, because a lot of people can't express how they feel or what they want to say, or do it in a creative way. So to be able to do all of those things is really special, and it's worth developing. So I would say there's definitely been, honestly, I've been the most emotional in a setting like, a private coaching session, where these young girls who are 12 and 13 will tell me these emotional things that I'm like, you're so self-aware, talking about, I get anxiety at school and I feel sad sometimes. And just the fact that they are willing to share that at all and then share it with me, who's not like a family member. And then say, I'm going to write a song about it. And I might share it with other people. And for them to be 12 and 13, I'm like, wow, that's so, so cool. And a big part of into their confidence saying, do you know how special that is, that you're like willing to do that and willing to share that, and how brave and, so that's been very cool for me to build with these girls and connect with them as like a big sister kind of.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And you're right, and that is such a young age, isn't it? It's so vulnerable, 12 and 13, and there's a lot of changes going on in that time.
Oh, man.
It's horrible.
I wouldn't go back.
I don't want to go back there either, been there, done that. But you're speaking from a real, it's a part of you, and you're empathizing actually with them, is what it sounds like to me. And you're understanding where they're at, and you're almost feeling where they're at, and that's why you know what to do with it. So
probably.
And in a way, it's a bit like a facilitator or a counselor. They talk about the wounded healer. There's some kind of, do you feel there's a little bit of healing that goes on in yourself when you help others?
Right. That's beautiful.
Is a part of you healing as well when you're helping others?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm loving this conversation. Absolutely. I think that working with these teen girls makes me very surprised every time. I'm like, it touches me in a way that probably I can't do for myself, because I've, like you said, been there, done that. But there's still that kind of inner child, so to speak, right? That's in all of us. And so I think it's very interesting. Like I said, I didn't have a female mentor when I was that age. I didn't really even know that, like, that's probably what I needed. And now, the industry is even more so of a place where it's like, you need a guide who really has your best intentions. It's something I didn't know I needed. It's something I didn't know I needed to work with these girls and feel this kind of healing that you're talking about in terms of, wow, like I felt like that too. And my story is influencing these girls to feel better about themselves. It's really cool. It's really cool.
And it just goes to highlight the importance actually of sharing your story.
Yes.
Because it's your story that will inspire the younger people to actually see the element of survival. We got through, and not only did we get through, we thrived.
Yes.
And I think this is the message that you're trying to give, and you are successfully. So you're looking at self-confidence, self-love, very important, self-worth, and all of that builds on life skills. And that's what it sounds like you're doing, as well as your own careers and performances.
Right.
Of course. That is obviously, you're looking at young people, young musicians who are not quite there yet. Am I right in believing that you have another course which is called Make Music, Make Money?
I do. Yep, I do.
Okay. And my understanding is this is a course for musicians?
It is. Yep.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about that? Because
Sure.
that sounds really interesting.
Absolutely. So like over here is kind of music of my music and things like that. Then here is the girls, teen girls. And then I do have another course called Make Music, Make Money, which is kind of for the independent artist. And so just really working with people. I've done it private consulting, and I've also done it with groups when they go through the course. And it's for people to learn how to make music and make money, which is why it's called that. Simple as that. But yeah, I've had such a great career, and I've been able to really find a lot of avenues to use my music to make an income and have that be my full-time thing. And so I find, actually, really interestingly enough, the more I work with adults, who are in this course, the more I find that their struggles are very similar to the girls' struggles. And it's not so much about giving information, because the internet is full of information, but it is strategic about how to do it with strategy, how to eliminate all that extra, do this and do this and do this and do this. No, do this. It's going to make you money. And then you take that money, you reinvest it in your music, and et cetera, et cetera. So I've kind of built this course. The course specifically is to teach people how to play live music and make more money doing it. But also from that has branched out to, I've had a lot of those people come to me and say, okay, now that I'm booking gigs and I'm making more money, how do I post my music online? How did you register it? How did you, make sure that it has a code in it so that it's getting tracked? Things like that. So that's kind of a separate next level of that course as well.
Yeah, because it's interesting because you say no fancy equipment is needed.
That's right.
No social media following, which I find amazing, because everything these days is social media. That's it.
You need it, right?
The old music business, which is the old, that's where I'm from. Old school cassettes and all vinyls. That's where I'm from. Okay, to where we're at now, it's from record labels getting a sign, which you still can have that, but they tend to jump in more after you've already got the social media following.
Right.
So things have changed quite a lot there. So I take it you kind of encourage this message as well, that you don't need a social media following to actually be successful?
I think a lot of people are using, my 3 kind of bullet points is like, you don't need a booking manager, you don't need fancy equipment, and you don't need a social media following. And I can say that confidently because I did it. I made a great career, and I have played, for thousands of people and made a really solid income doing so without all those things. So I can tell you, you don't need that because I did it. And I think that a big part of playing music, people who want to create a career out of playing music, I think that there's big strategy involved in doing that. And that's the key that a lot of people are missing. They think, oh, I got to go to Guitar Center, or I shouldn't say brand names, but I got to go and buy tons of fancy equipment and put $5,000 on the credit card. And I got to have 20,000 fans online before anybody will pay me for a show, or those are all not true. And so I try to break it down in a really practical way that helps people say, oh, well, I don't have a social media following. I don't have really any equipment except maybe my guitar or my piano. And, I don't have a team of people. And my thing is, you can still make a full-time income with whatever you have, and I can teach you how. So
this is wonderful. This is wonderful. I mean, I love the fact that you're saying this, because there's this real big divide in the music industry. There's like the with and with not, the witouts, those who have, you're either up there or you're down there. What you're saying here is there is a little bit of middle ground here.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's reachable. It's reachable.
Yes, it's more reachable than people think. Yes.
Absolutely. So I think this is very important, and I think it all starts there anyway, doesn't it? I mean, you don't really, if you think about when you're songwriting and you look back years, you literally just need a guitar, something to keep you in tune, or a piano and a voice. That's it. Everything else is all fabricated. So what you're doing is you're breaking that down completely. And you're saying this is what you need, and you can still make an income from that.
Yes. If that's the goal, it really takes strategy. It takes being, like I said, strategic about how you're playing a show. I was doing a lot of different venues and a lot of different gigs, and would get a reputation because of certain strategies that I would implement. And people think, okay, well, I can book a show and I can show up and play the show and go home, and anybody can do that. And kind of that's true if you know how to book a show to begin with. but
Yeah.
it's the whole format of how are you interacting with the crowd? How are you doing your break time? How are
Yeah.
you, utilizing songs and reusing them and
Yeah.
interacting with the staff? And all of those things contribute to really turning it into a regular full-time thing
Yeah.
and
Sure.
saying, oh yeah, I did it one time and I can't figure out how to do it again.
Absolutely right. And yeah, it's very important that young people actually get an understanding of that, actually, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of this, dare I say it, social media. It worries me a lot.
Yeah, I
Social
hear you.
media, it
Yep, I
worries me.
agree.
And I think there's so much, what can I say, emphasis on image. I mean, you think
Yes.
about image for a minute. I mean, is that something that you talk about, image?
Yeah, I would say that I kind of try to fold in image into like knowing yourself, because I think that something that's really important to me is, like, I'm all about put your eyelashes on and your fancy lipstick. I love my
Why
everything
not?
glamorous and fabulous, and totally I'm into it. But
Wonderful.
don't let that be your identity.
There
And
you go. There you
yeah,
go.
that's very
Yeah.
important that we teach kind of
Yeah.
knowing yourself and
Yeah.
being confident in yourself.
Yes.
I think the thing with social media is
Mm.
that there's a not very much artist development in social media, because you can
Yep.
fake everything. You
Absolutely.
can fake what you look like and what you sound
Mm.
like and what
Mm.
edits and crops and filters, whatever. So a lot of new artists are
Mm.
missing how to do an interview and
Yeah.
practice that, how
Mm.
to play in front of real people. A lot of artists are coming out right now and they don't know how to play a live show.
No, it's bizarre.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yes, and that's hence it's really important to talk about these, and that's why I look at the old day. I call them the old days. I feel
Totally.
so old when I say that. But you
Yeah.
started out at home in your
Yes.
bedroom,
Yes.
playing it rough.
Yeah.
Eventually, when you could go to studio, and then you did live gigs. And for me, actually, I think it's really important to keep live music alive.
Of course. There's
Really
nothing like
important.
it.
There's nothing like it,
That's
because
right.
it shows who you are, and it just keeps it's teaching. It's your school, when you
Yes.
go there. So
Yes.
definitely love what you're doing there. I want to move on now to a delicate subject. It's a
Okay.
subject that I'm very passionate about.
Okay.
It's something that I think you and I really are very together on this.
Uh-huh.
Mental health. Mental
Mm.
health. Mental
Mm.
health is the word of the decade, I think. So,
Yeah. Good.
and
Good,
there's
right.
been, yeah, absolutely. So, can you tell me your interest in mental health, and how it relates to artists? Is there something
Yes.
you can share with that?
Yeah, I think that they're kind of one and the same.
Hmm.
I feel like, again, working with these girls has made me realize, oh, it's not just me who feels
Mm.
everything on like level 1000, who feels super happy when I'm happy and not great when I'm not great.
Mm.
Um, and that's a huge part of artistry, is that these people who can identify their emotions and put it into music or write um, instrumentation that reflects how they feel, like in a dark way,
Mm.
in a happy way, upbeat.
Yeah.
That is directly tied to us being really in touch with our emotions, which
Mm.
is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But it
Mm.
also can be really scary and really I think a lot of people who are artists, I noticed like with some of my girls that I coach, they would get really upset about a mistake
Yeah.
or really apologetic about a mistake. And
Mm.
I have done that for many, many years. My mom used to like hide my piano music when I was a kid because I would get so mad if I made a
Mm.
mistake. And I think it's just a matter of being okay with all the feels, be okay
Yeah.
with all the feels. And
Yeah.
as an artist, there's a lot of feels. There's a lot of things
Absolutely.
happening. So I think it's
Yeah.
really important to talk about, hey, you're not alone.
Mm,
Hey, a lot of people feel like this, and not in a way that discredits the way that,
mm.
if somebody's going through something. Yeah, I know in times that I've had that are hard, people will say like, yeah, everybody goes through that. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that. Like that, makes you feel like your thing is less important and valuable, and that's not
Yes,
true.
not at all.
Um,
Yeah.
and but it's important to know that you can talk about it, that you
Mm.
can reach out to people, that it's normal, that it's okay, and that it's all temporary. I think is a really important
Yes.
message about mental
Yep.
health too, is that these waves of feeling different ways has to do with seasons of life and all of those things, and it's all temporary, and the happiness, the up here is temporary. And even like when you play a show, it's really interesting to get used to the feeling of, a show is an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, but then there's, several hundred hours left in your week, and you're like up here for this show, and then you're like, oh, now what do I do?
It's
um
it's incredible, isn't it? That
yeah.
the feelings, because it's a euphoric feeling, isn't it?
Yes.
Your adrenaline gets going, you're all pumped up, and then you do the
Yes.
show, and then it feels like, woof, you've just dropped. And
Absolutely. And nobody prepares you as an artist for that.
no,
Nobody tells you, there might be
yeah.
this postpartum thing after your
Mm.
shows or award shows or things like that. It's like, oh, now what?
100% right. Nobody does prepare you. And what is interesting is just I was just thinking about the element of being flawless, right?
Yeah.
So we're not. We're all human at the end of the day. We're
Yeah.
allowed to feel. We're allowed to react. We're allowed to, be human.
Yes.
Do you encounter this problem with young artists? And I say young because there's less experience there. As you get
Yeah.
older,
Yeah.
you acquire the experience. So do you encounter this problem with I have to be perfect?
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely. I think, like you said, I've been through a lot of those things, so I feel like I could speak on it with whoever. And there is a level of perfection,
Mm.
and I think it's really important to separate perfecting your craft and perfecting yourself.
Yes.
That's something that I've really been working on
Yeah.
in the last 2 years, is we can make the product as
Mhm.
amazing as possible. We can
Mm.
edit it, and we can
Mhm.
color correct it, and we can do
Mhm.
all of the things, and I'm going to make sure it's the best, the best, the best that I can do. But
Mm.
as a person, I'm also going to make sure I'm the best that I can be.
Mhm.
And certain days, if this, like, I heard a quote once about, every day your best is your best, or something like that, and your best is always different. And it's like,
Mm.
sometimes today the best I got is XYZ, other days
Mm.
I get 20 tasks done, and all of that
Mm.
is okay, either one.
Mm. Mm.
And teaching that is really important. Like I
I
said, a
get
lot of the girls will kind of be hard on themselves about
mm.
making a mistake, and I'm like, ooh, let's correct that now.
Yes, making
Yeah.
mistakes and setting goals all the time. I mean,
Yes.
and if you don't achieve that goal, again, you're down with depression almost, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, what are some of the mental health issues that you've encountered? I mean, you've mentioned anxiety. This seems to
Mhm.
be quite present with a lot of young
Yes.
people these days. Anxiety.
Yes.
Do you come across any other areas, for example, or depression, or
Yeah.
anything else? Would
Yep.
you say depression?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would say depression and anxiety is the number one thing
Yeah,
I've dealt with, and the
yeah,
number one thing that my girls deal with.
right.
That's number one, and I think it comes from a place of, they say that overwhelmed is like a bottleneck, so you feel like you have all these thoughts, and you're
Yeah.
trying to they're all trying to come out and manifest and do everything all at once. And so, yeah,
Mm,
I see that those two are the number one mental health things that I think are really like,
mhm,
you can really work on those, and you can really, but you got to be aware of them.
That is number one, isn't it? Do you
Yeah.
think they are aware of it? Or do you think they're a bit all over the place with it?
I'm very surprised at how self-aware a lot of my girls are. I
Amazing.
think that, again, those are things that I've dealt with, is
Mm.
perfectionism and anxiety on that, and depression definitely on certain days,
Mm.
or certain periods of life. And so when I see it with my girls, I feel like, let's talk about this. Let's dig into
Right.
this, because I think there's always like a surface emotion and then like a deeper one.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to identify, I'm annoyed or I'm stressed out, and it's like, okay, but why? And then let's break it down. And why do we feel like we have to accomplish all these things? And what can we do? What can we do?
Mm.
What do we control? And
Mm.
that's been, for me, the best mental health medicine, so to speak, is like, okay, what do I control? First of all, what am I stressed about? What do I control? And what don't I control?
Mhm.
And where does that fall? And then how do I decide to move accordingly? Because if I don't control it, it's stressing me out. That's, it's going to stress me out. It's just going to keep stressing me out because I can't change it. And if I can change it, let's change it,
Right. So
Yeah.
so it's really looking for the root cause. And
Yes.
it sounds, and I've seen this as well, that there's a problem, it manifests in this way, but when you take them one-to-one, you break it down, you find it's actually something else, which could be
Yes.
at home or
Yep.
at school with another
Yes.
person,
Yes.
and something that is completely unrelated to the present moment, but it's
Totally.
really important.
Manifesting. Right.
It's
Right.
manifesting through something
Yes.
else.
Absolutely.
So that's what you facilitate. You facilitate to get to that root cause, to deal with it.
Yes.
And once you've got that root cause understood, it's
Mhm.
in their awareness, you've brought it into awareness, and then you can make a logical decision on, what do we do with this? Where do we put this now?
Yes.
How do we bracket this? How do we? So it sounds, sounds amazing. You sound like a complete natural. I mean, have you had any formal training, or is this just purely because you're going with a completely empathic route?
Yeah. I think,
Yeah.
I just listened to an interview the other day that said something about, my job isn't to change you, it's just to make you believe that I believe what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
I was like, yes, that's what I want. Every time I talk to somebody, every time I do an interview, every time I'm on stage, it's really important. Like, everybody's coming from where they're at, right? So you have to figure out, let me not take this personally with the girls or with anything or with people, fans at shows. And I think for me, it's like, I love what I do, every single piece of it. I love singing. I love connecting with people. I love performing on stage, and I love teaching other people how to feel better and to deal with emotions and deal with certain things better than I have done in the past. And so that's kind of my goal, is just that you believe that I really care about what I do, and I really care about my music. I really care about my girls that I work with. I really care about all the people who come to shows and follow on social media. It's, everybody I interview with, it's really a blessing to me, and I really love it.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just sounds like you're so busy. I mean, you've got all
Busy.
the, you're very,
That's
very
true.
busy.
Yes, that's
You're
true.
writing, you're doing blogs, you're doing your own music. Have you got any new music on the horizon of your own?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's exciting.
We are gonna probably release the next single, like February
Wow.
is the projected goal. And then my plan is to release the whole album in maybe May or June, beginning of summer.
Yeah.
I would love to go on tour in the fall, permitted that, we're back to regular life. I would love to come to the UK. That would be
Oh, you must.
fantastic. I really
You
would
must.
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That would be amazing.
Yeah,
So,
more music. Yes.
oh, absolutely wonderful. So in terms of, I'm just curious, how much, I talk about the ratio. Are you doing a lot of music making, a lot of coaching, a lot of writing, or is it more or less, what's the ratio of where are you putting all of your energies? How are you doing
Yeah. Oh, yeah, good question. Yeah, I ask myself that on a regular
that?
basis. Where do I get all the energy for all these things?
Yes.
I would say that it's kind of not so much a ratio like day to day,
Yeah.
but season by season. I've been doing a lot of research on, like I really love the concept of how a farmer mentality is seasonal, and
Mm.
there's a season for planting, and there's a season for harvesting, and there's a season for watering. And I've tried to implement that into everything that I'm doing, because I'm such a like instant gratification person. Like, okay, we made a song, let's have a hit. And I really embrace the process of doing interviews and doing radio stations and enjoying every radio station that calls and says, hey, we're playing Odyssey, and finding out it's overseas. How amazing.
It's lovely.
So ratio wise, I would say like May to September was all music, all Odyssey, writing, studio, going to the mall every day to find sparkly shoes. Yeah. Mapping out the video, all of those things. And then there was a season of, okay, let's get ready to release it. And I think now we're in a season of more interviews, more radio. I am doing a lot of consulting. I am doing a lot of coaching, which I love. And I actually currently have time for that. As things continue, that will slow down. But I try to write, at least once a week. I try to have a little session with myself where I'll have a glass of wine and get on my piano and listen to some music online, get some inspiration. I try to do that once a week. My brother is really creative, and we were just having a conversation about this, that you have to make time to create your art, and like running a business and doing all those things. You start to get away from that.
Yep.
And he's like, we got to make time that we just create, with the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, when do I have time to my music? So
well,
I make time for all of it, for sure.
I was going to ask you, when do you make time for yourself?
Yes. Music is so special to me. I feel like I don't have a job. I don't, this is my job. That's how cool is that? But again, I make time to spend time with my family, and to put the phone aside and do holidays. That's really special to me too. So yeah.
It is important, isn't it? Self-care,
Yes.
self-care. We're always promoting it. We're always telling other people, you've got to look after yourself, but do you actually listen to your own words?
Right. Right. Yeah. And honestly, I try to really be, like I said, it's important to me that people believe that I believe what I talk about. And so I do talk a lot about self-care. I do talk a lot about self-love. So I do really try to make sure I cook for myself, and I have a glass of wine, and I read a nice book, and spend time. You know what? I'm just going to create right now. I'm just going to write right now, or let's go to New York City and spend the day in the city. I really do try to do a lot of self-care things, because I do believe it's important. And I talk about that a lot.
Yeah, it is. And because I think there is a process when it comes to creating there's a process, there's a space that isn't just in that time when you're actually actively doing it. It could be while you're in the supermarket. It could be in the most obscure places, in the car driving, or on track. And those spaces are really important to download, let's say, those messages or the information or the creativity that actually, when it comes to putting your fingers down to the piano or the laptop, you can then reel it off. You've got something. So that space is really important, which is why I ask it. So really, really interesting stuff, Laura. Amazing. Yeah. Another question I have for you is, what do you want to achieve for yourself?
Ooh, is there a timeline or just in life?
You can do whatever you like. I mean, you can think whatever comes to your mind. I'm just thinking, what do you want to achieve for yourself?
Yeah, no, I would say that it's really important to me to have an impact on people, that people feel like if they know me or they know my music or they work with me privately coaching or consulting, they feel like more connected to themselves. They feel more confident. My goal is to kind of whatever I've learned and embodied is to share it. I think that's kind of the point of being an artist. And that's my goal, is that people feel better, their life is improved in some form or fashion by being a fan or by coming to a show or working with me or chatting with me. That's the goal. And I think on a big level, I would love to perform as much as possible in my lifetime, perform for as many, have as many experiences as possible. Yeah. So that's the goal.
Do you prefer being a recording artist, or do you prefer going out on the road and doing live stuff, or where are you at as an artist?
That's a hard question, because I really love every piece, like, not to sound like, oh, I love everything, but I really like there's a place for each piece, right? So I think I get a different kind of high, so to speak, from different opportunities and experiences. This, I love to chat about this. I used to get on stage and my brother's like, Alaura, just sing, just sing. You don't need to talk so much. But then I get to do interviews. So that's really fun for me. And then I love to be in the studio. I love to create. I love to just be at my piano. I love to write by myself, have a little session like that. And they're all serving a different purpose. Being on stage, I love to be on stage. I love the energy of a room, of a crowd. I love the fact that, when you're the person on stage, you're kind of getting to mold and shape the energy, which is really cool. And connecting with people. I love to see people after a show and hear, that song, I listened to that song. Somebody told me, I wrote a song called You Matter. And somebody had told me, oh my gosh, I listened to that song every day. My brother had committed suicide. And I listened to that song every day for like 2 months. And those are things, like, as artists, we don't always even know. We never know. So getting that opportunity to speak to people about it is another thing that I really love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, and just extending from that comment, you never know what impact your song's going to have on someone.
Yes.
And I find this fascinating about songs, because it can have a different meaning for different people.
Yeah, absolutely.
The same song, and it's and I guess
so cool.
It's a phenomenon, really.
It's
it really is.
Cool.
So basically, what you're saying is, the live stuff, the creative stuff on the piano, going to record it and put it down to tape, they all bring out a different part. They all play a different part, and they bring out a different feeling in you, a feeling of, would you say you feel satisfied once you've completed that? Do you get a feeling of satisfaction?
I wish that I could say yes.
What's the answer then?
But no? the answer, I heard somebody, again, I love to listen. I'm like obsessed with podcasts and interviews and things.
Yeah.
I was listening to somebody who was talking about how they're like constantly blissfully dissatisfied. And I was like, ooh, that kind of sounds like me. Like really enjoying the moment, enjoying all of the opportunities, but never feeling quite like, okay, I'm good. Always feeling like, okay, so let's do it again. Let's do another one.
I think artists can be an absolute nightmare sometimes, because that is the problem, and it's like self-sabotaging in a way, because you're never satisfied, are you really? Yeah. It's never. But there comes a time when you think, right, that's good enough. That's going to have to stay like this now. Yes. That is it. Yes. Because there will always be times, and I'm sure you've done it, I know I've done it plenty of times, you go over, you re-record the same song, but then eventually you lose something.
Yeah.
And because maybe it might have been better second or third, fourth time round, fifth time round even, but the first take might have just been the magical one.
Yes. A lot of great like hit songs are said to be recorded on the first take.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes, I've heard this. So
I'm excited about, like we talked about, like being satisfied is a new thing for me. And I
Wow.
think, yeah,
Okay.
it is. And so honestly, with eroticy is the first time I'm like really loving. A lot of times, like when you're an artist,
Mm.
a song gets written a year before it gets even put out sometimes, and then there's a year of promotion, and you're like, oh, I'm over this song. Let's go to a new one. And so, like, I think a lot,
Yeah.
especially with social media and the internet, a lot of
Yeah.
people are really quick to make new content. Oh, that didn't catch, let me put something new out. Oh, and
Mm.
it's like it needs some TLC, it needs some
Mm.
love, and more
Mm.
interviews and more things like that. So honestly, right now I'm really just enjoying connecting with more people on social media
Great.
and letting eroticy kind of have its own life and breathe, and yeah,
Wonderful.
only child type thing. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And you have made a very good point there, that people are too quick to put things out too quickly, one after another.
Yeah.
And you've lost the first one and you haven't anchored it. So there's the element of anchoring, I suppose,
Yes.
what you're doing with
Yes.
this one. Give it the TLC,
Yes.
let
Yep.
it blossom. And
Right.
then by the time next year comes, you'll be ready to put the next one out,
Yeah.
and then you just grow from that. I think it's a very, very wonderful point there,
Yeah.
and something to be, definitely to take into account. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much for coming
Yeah.
here and for
Thank
talking with
you.
me. I've thoroughly enjoyed meeting you, and I think it's
Yes.
amazing what you do. Keep doing what you're doing,
Thank
because
you. You too.
we need you. We
Yes.
and I think there's guidance, and for young people, all the talk on mental health. Keep on that. Research is really inspirational. I find you inspirational, Laura. You really are an inspiration, and I wish you the very, very best of luck with your career, because you're doing amazingly well.
Thank you so much. It's been a lovely time. I've loved our conversation, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was really
Well,
fun.
oh, thank you. I hope next year you come back, and
Absolutely. I will.
it will be interesting to see what happens
Yes.
this time next year, because a lot
That's
can.
right.
Yeah, you never know.
Awesome. Very cool.
Hopefully meet you in person, though.
Yes, I would love that. I will definitely be to the UK. That's the goal in 2022. So
Great.
we'll have to meet up.
Definitely.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mel.
Read about it in magazines, the news headlines and shadows.